Coley, we've got some big news again.
Big news, Ben. We're going on tour.
We are going on tour, and everyone knows that we're going to Clapham Grand. However, we are delighted to announce that you can come and watch us live in Bath, Bristol, Northampton, and Leicester.
A solid tour of the southwest and East Midlands there, then.
Yeah, pretty much. Not too far.
It's a local tour.
Yeah.
Of those 4 venues.
Well, we haven't got a tour bus yet, so maybe in years to come we might venture.
You want a tour bus, do you?
Well, no, I was just...
Can we get 2 tour buses? One for you, one for me.
Like a little trailer at the back where we like imagine it is how it's like if you're a Hollywood actor where they just go back in their trailer, don't they?
Yeah, it's like you basically do it and then fall asleep on the bus and wake up in a different city. Northampton. Brilliant.
Just 40 minutes away. The point is, we are coming. We were going to come live in Bath, Bristol, Northampton, and Leicester. Tickets go on general sale on Friday at 10 a.m. That is tomorrow. However, we've got another pre-sale, and the pre-sale is currently open. The pre-sale is for the podcast listeners only, and the code you need is
THB.
THB, correct. That stands for
Triple Hard Bastard.
You're looking at 1
or 2.
1. No, you're looking at 1.
Oh, I'm looking at 1.
I'm not looking at 1.
Right. What?
Can you hold a mirror up?
You looking at it?
Right. The pre-code is THB. So find the link in the episode description or in our bios on any social accounts. Enter the pre-sale code
THB
and buy your tickets now before they go on general sale.
Go and in the episode description, or on socials, find the link, click the link, put THB in, and get tickets for you and your loved ones.
And then airdrop it.
And then come and see this shower of live.
I'd like to make an early announcement. There will be no refunds.
Yeah. Just as well, I'm really going to sell this show, but the magic of this podcast is in the producing, because it gets edited down into something, produced down into something really good. But there is 75% of it is nonsense. So a live show, we can't edit it down. So it could just be nonsense.
Chaos.
But as you said, no refunds, no blades, no bows, no refunds. All right. So just.
If it's really bad, let's put you in those medieval things where you put your hands in and your head through
stocks,
and everyone just chucks cold sponges at you.
Mini rugby balls on my head. Yeah. What about you? What do you get? So we've got the pre-sales currently open, but tickets are on general sale on Friday, which is tomorrow when this goes out.
Tomorrow. But if you want it before tomorrow,
get them today.
Get them today. All right, so our Q&A episode, but we've had some messages in, so let's get into it. Cole, we've got a question from Sarah. Nice to see Richard Wigglesworth get promoted. What makes him a good coach?
Good question, Sarah. I would say, A, it's a couple of things. Well, lots of things really make a good coach, but A, his level of knowledge of the game. B, his willingness to prepare and not just coach what he did as a player, but coach sort of the future, you know what I mean, how you want to evolve England in regards to take it forward, ranging from the big, I guess, attack and transition parts of the game to sort of the more minute detail of how you want to actually run things and, the setup of we talk about the 3-pod, all that kind of, the 3-person pod, that kind of stuff, all that. And thirdly, his way of actually getting the message across, and he's a good communicator. He's obviously, he's been coaching for a long time now. He's been to previous World Cup with Canada. I thought coached Ealing, I think when he was still playing with Sarries, that kind of stuff. So he's coached a long time, and I think his ability to stand in front of a room and communicate with players and get his point across. Yeah, those the big 3 things I think, which is knowledge, being prepared, and getting your message across. He knows well, and he's been in different environments to be able to do it. Like he coached at Leicester, obviously did it with Sarries, Ealing, Canada. He's got several years of doing it, and I think he's passionate about it, which obviously helps, and he wants to be the best he can be, which also again means that he puts the time into those areas. And I'm sure there are others as well, but that's what, off the top of my head, that's what I'd say what he's good at.
Yeah, no, he presents very well, doesn't he?
Yep.
Part of any good coach is you've got to sell the plan. He sells it very well in terms of his presentations, drives a high standard. He doesn't shirk away. If things aren't to the level that he expects, he'll never do you a disservice by not saying it.
Well, during World Cup camps, he was if things weren't going right, he was quite happy to. Some coaches just step back and go, "Oh, it's not going right," and then let it happen, and then afterwards, reviews, that was very good. But he straight away, I remember him not say losing his head, but he was quite forthright in regards to this is not how we train, this is not how we do it. Let's train the England way, and that's what he sort of did.
Yeah, I think sometimes as well, it's easy. Like the hardest thing is micro. They call it micro coaching, but like coaching on the go, like just constant. That's what Eddie did as well. Where like if an incident happens and it needs addressing there and then, you've got to snap it then, because if you go after it 10 minutes later or an hour or even the next, it's too late. Like you need that instant feedback. So he's very good at that. So no, good to see an England coach doing so well and obviously get promoted within the national setup.
Yeah, I think it's good to say. Regardless, I think Steve's got that plan. Obviously, there's a couple of coaches left, but I think if Steve solidifies his core coaching group with Wiggy, Tom Harrison, Kev Sinfield, again 3 passionate Englishmen beneath Steve, then it's sort of that gives you a sort of probably a great foundation to be able to bring other moving parts around.
Absolutely.
Question from Johnny. Gareth Davies recently retired from international rugby. Could you rank the top 3 Welsh scrummers you've played against?
Oh, good question. First of all, what an unbelievable career he's had.
Yep.
So congratulations to him. Of course, pivotal for Wales for many years. I always think of him like the intercepts. I think he did it against Australia in the World Cup. He did one against Scotland during the Six Nations. But you always, when you played against him, you're always aware of like that arrowhead, and he'd often get in between the passing lane of the 9, pass into that middle guy, and he'd sprint out the line. You could never see him coming. He'd time it perfectly. But he had way more to his game than that. But like like playing against him, I always thought like you always had to be slightly aware of where he is.
His retirement picture as well. He's freaking jacked.
Oh, he's a strong boy, mate. Like
Did you ever swap shirts with him?
I have got one of his shirts. Yeah.
Did it hang off the old biceps a bit when you put it on?
It was a bit loose around the biceps on me because he's got some serious guns.
A bit tight around the stomach.
A bit tight around the darb, yeah.
My muscles are more in my core, so.
But he like Wales produce so many good 9s.
Yeah.
Like it's like one of those positions where they just have a treadmill. So top 3 9s, he'd definitely be in it. I think you can't go past Mike Phillips, Thomas Williams, and of course Gareth Davies. So
in no particular order, or in particular order?
In no particular order, because it's hard. But my top 3.
Well, off the top of your head, it's hard to do. Yeah.
My top 3, and it's a treadmill because they produce great scrum halves, right? And there's been plenty. Because even when I look back at like Dwayne Peel was a great 9, like growing up watching him, and actually played against him when he was at Sale, like fantastic 9. But it's hard for him not to be in it, really. I mean, Mike Phillips, Gareth Davies is definitely in it, and I say again, congratulations to him for an amazing career. Thomas Williams is very good 9. Then you think Dwayne Peel I played against, and he was outstanding. No, I'm going to go with Phillips, Gareth Davies, and Thomas Williams, and that's not in order. That's just they're 3 very, very good 9s.
Question from Sarri's fan Tommy: why don't people rate Alex Lozowski as much as I do?
Well, I rate Alex Lozowski, Tommy. So
as much as Tommy does.
As much as Tommy does.
How do you know how much he rates him though?
Well, he obviously rates him very highly because he's taken the time to.
Well, actually, he says people don't rate him as much as I do, but he never actually gives us.
Well, how high does he rate him?
Correct. He might not rate him at all. He might rate him really highly, but we don't know. But do you rate on a scale of?
Yes, I do.
You do.
I rate Alex Lozowski very much.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that he had obviously ACL injury. He's come back, so he missed a huge amount of last season, if not all of it, I think. And he's been an integral clog for sort of Saracens. But like one of those sort of unsung guys that you don't understand his value until he is taken out of the team. And having played against him, no, I definitely understand his quality. It's great to see him back involved with the England squad. I do. I think that he's been someone that has been unfortunate to not get the recognition for the consistent levels of performance that he's had. Don't forget as well, he started as a 10.
Yeah.
He started as a 10, then he moved a little bit at 12, and now he's a 13, and now he's a genuine, fantastic 13.
Yeah.
So,
and he can still cover those. He still occasionally pops up for Sarries. And that's the thing with me. I've looked at him and he's kind of like, I guess, been overshadowed by the fact you got sort of Farrell, you sort of centres of Barrett, Bosch, Daly's played for, and they're big names and international quality players, but he's never looked out of place. And sometimes he's, and the fact he probably moves around, covers things, shows the quality of the bloke in regards to, it probably counts against him in some regards because it's kind of, because he can fit so many places or fit across that sort of back line, you just don't recognise his value to a team. Whereas like if someone's playing week in, week out one position, you kind of go, oh, that's what they do. So no, he's a great player, and so he's a great footballer as well in regards to the way he sees the game, and he's never where he might not be the superstar that people, when you look at that Sarries backline, he's not the superstar, but he's the glue that holds it together, and he's fantastic player. So I think
he's definitely one of those guys where internally, if you play with him week in, week out, you value him so highly. You know how important he is. And if you play against him, you know what a pivotal role he plays. But externally, if you're not in the rugby and you just watch it as a purist, like you say, because there's other guys, or there has been other guys like your own Farrells, your Elliot Dailies, guys like that, he doesn't necessarily get the recognition week in, week out. But no, I certainly regard him very highly. And it's great to see him back involved with England, having had a long stint out. Of course, his last cap was against Japan under Eddie. So great to see him back involved.
Question from Vinny. The Bateman chat seems to have dried up. Will there be a podcast beer or not?
Funny you say that, Vinny, and funny you ask that, Coley. But a good friend has just walked through the door, and I'll ask him to come and join us straight away. So come on in, big fella.
These chairs look a little bit
right,
you have to squeeze in.
Good luck trying to squeeze in.
Right, yeah. How are we doing?
Are you good?
Yeah.
We'll adjust it after the ad break.
Yeah,
but
thanks very much.
Bateman, you're here, mate.
I'm here.
Which means
the people's captain is here.
That you can only bring great news, because surely you've not come on to say.
I have news.
No, mate, we haven't done it for you. You have news.
I have news.
Right, Ben, for the new listeners that don't know, who is Greg Bateman, the man sat right here?
Greg Bateman, good friend of mine, former teammate, former CrossFit champion, as you entered for a mate, basically, and then you smashed it.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's important that people know that, because we're not CrossFit champions.
The actual CrossFit Games?
Yet.
No, it's Muscle and Fitness UK, that. Genuine. Right. Genuine.
Prop, could play on both sides. The guy that ran around Mike Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if those don't YouTube it, we've got our own channel. Maybe we could put that footage up of you rounding Brownie, which now reminds me, I'm going to see him tomorrow, and I'm going to tell Brownie that Brownie, you got skinned by Bateman 5 years ago, which means probably Coley, you can now skin him.
You played hooker as well, didn't you, Greg?
Yeah, all three.
Played London Welsh, Exeter, Leicester, Newport.
The Dragons. Yeah.
Anywhere else you'd like to throw in there?
No. Well, the smart money is... so when I left Exeter, they won the Premiership. Left you boys, you won the Premiership. So the smart money's on the Dragons to win the URC. Maybe I was the problem.
Well,
Coley, more importantly, and listeners more importantly, Greg is the founder and owner of the People's Captain.
I am, yeah. If you can't get a proper job, you just invent yourself a title, don't you? But yeah, that's my thing. That's what I do.
Just tell me about the name, because obviously when you started to do this, obviously you were still at the club with us, and we did give you a bit of heat saying, like, how have you self-proclaimed?
Oh, it's entirely self-proclaimed, yeah, People's Captain. Well, I think you dug me out a little bit for socials, and I did pride myself on organising a good social. But I think people need on a good social, they need a common enemy. And I seem to play that role quite well, where as long as I was having a bad time, everybody else was having a really bad time, despite the amount of effort that I might have gone to make sure it was a really good day. I self-proclaimed. It did start a little bit at Exeter. That was probably self-proclaimed as well. So People's Captain kind of stuck, or I made it stick.
And also our video that went viral of Christmas Tree Gate, which I'm sure we'll touch on later. But of course you were on the receiving end of some...
Yeah, I was a bit hurt by that, if I'm honest, because, it still hurts me now, I think.
You can't look me in the eye.
No, I'm raging, if I'm honest. And then I thought about it a bit more, and I thought, I remember Coley sent me a message when I left Leicester, and I was reading through it, and thanks for all your efforts, and great player, can't believe you didn't get the recognition you deserved, your tries were unbelievable, some of that stuff. And then he said, so beer names, so far you've got Legend, Short and Stout, is the next one P45? Which actually is really clever, and I'm annoyed with myself, I didn't think of it. But yes, no, delighted to be here, chaps, and delighted to see your success as well.
Your company's called People's Captain. How did it come about, and obviously your role is inventor, owner extraordinaire, but what's its sort of purpose that it plays?
Yeah, sure. Visionary is another title I give myself. But so
Pioneering.
Yeah, that's it, pioneer. Probably class People's Captain as a mission company that makes beer rather than a beer company with a bit of a mission. As you boys know, which I'm sure we'll get to later on, I was having a pretty tough time, and a pint with my mate was really helpful, and that's when I started opening up and realising that I needed to go and get some help. So we're very much, how can our tagline is brewing positivity, so how can we inject a bit of positivity, whether that's for publicans, for punters, and some charity work. So we do an annual fundraiser every year and that stuff. So very much the mission of improving mental health in the UK and making great beer.
No, that's a awesome thing you're doing, Greg. But Ben, what have you challenged Greg to do?
A charity boxing match against him. I'm going to fill him in.
It wouldn't be the first.
No, what I challenged Greg to do is we were sort of like chatting away, weren't we? And I thought we should bring our own beer out because we're in pre-season. And we trained. I thought, do you know what? I can't wait for the weekend. And we've been flogged, and I just wanted to look forward to nice ice cold beer. And I was like, well, actually, I know someone that could potentially help with that. So I challenged Greg to come up with For the Love of Rugby beer, which the fact you've now turned up suggests that you've come up with the goods.
I have. Challenge accepted and challenge accomplished. We've made a beer for you. For us.
We have a beer
for everyone. It's a 3% pale ale. Bit of a malty body, bit of a citrus sort of kick, but you'll be desperate for another pint by the time you finish it. Thirst-quenchingly good. Actually, that's probably stolen somewhere, I think. Thirst-quenchingly.
No, we'll take it.
Yeah. Okay. And it has been very well received so far. So there will be a decent amount of stocking this November.
In November is when it's coming out, is it?
It's going to be out in time for the autumn internationals. So Coley will obviously be representing King and Country, and we'll be sinking pints around the UK. So it comes out in time for the autumn internationals. For the whole of November, it'll be available.
How many pints? How many pints we got? How many pubs?
So we have currently. So the way it works, right, is I go to the groups, the pubs, the wholesalers, and go, I've got this great idea, and then go and sell the idea, and we then get a forecast of all of that. What they think they can sell. I then go to the brewery and say, we need to brew that much. Well, here we go. So we're currently sitting on a 800 Firkin forecast. So a Firkin is 9 gallons. That's 7,200 gallons. Someone's going to correct my maths, I'm sure. And that's just shy of 60,000 pints, about 58,500 pints, something like that, of For the Love of Rugby ale.
I feel like you've over-delivered, mate. I feel like you've really
He's
got
just wanted a quiet pint in his garden, mate. It's what's a Firkin, by the way?
A Firkin is a 9-gallon cask. So this is cask ale, real ale.
Yeah.
We're in real ale season now. So obviously when I first received the phone call, when I wasn't talking to you at the time, you were talking about lagers. We're not really in lager season. This is real ale season now. So that's what.
Well, up the real ale, mate.
Yeah. Up the real ale.
Up the real ale.
I'd like to think you've embodied some of the podcast in the making of this beer, real ale, real people, slightly fruity, 3%.
Citrusy.
It's a nice, a nice drink.
I'd have
isn't
to
it,
have 20 of them.
So citrus is sour, some might say.
Yeah, I was going to say, not sour and bitter, this side of things. It's fruity and uplifting, like Ben, isn't it?
Yes.
So, Greg, is the beer going to be in any of the pubs near Twickenham this November?
Yes. The one person that I just haven't had time to get in touch with yet is Stu Green from the Cabbage Patch. I'm sure he will do it.
When you say you haven't had time to get in contact with him, how much time do you need?
I just need to just make a phone call.
Go on then.
Yeah, well, I know Stu Green.
Yeah.
And we know the patch.
Do you want me to call them now?
What's the other pubs then, that have agreed?
That have agreed to take the beer
Yeah.
in London?
In around Twickenham. Because if you haven't spoken to Stu yet, who are the other ones? We put a bit of heat on them.
The Sussex Arms,
Yeah.
which is part of Morgan Pub Co., supplied by Daler Drinks. Shout out to them. Then you've got the Breakspear pubs that are there, Punch pubs that are also in London, and other free trades. But really, for Twickenham, we need Stu Green.
Ring up. We need Stu. Ring him. I feel like if we get it in the patch, we've nailed it.
The most famous rugby pub in the world.
It's where everyone goes pre-game.
Greg Bateman, as I live and breathe. How are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Good, man. Have you got 5 minutes?
Yeah, of course. Always for you, buddy. Always.
Oh, you're too good to me. Listen, previously I'd mentioned that I might cave and do a beer with Ben and Dan, even though they've been digging me out recently.
Man, they're always digging you out.
Well, it's not all true, but you know, I said
Is that Greg, isn't it?
well, I can't confirm or deny that, but I was having a chat. It looks like we've managed to pull it off. It looks like we might get the beer together in time for the autumn internationals. Ben reckons that there is only one world famous rugby pub, the most famous rugby pub in Twickenham. Do you reckon if we get it to you in time that you'd be prepared to put some in for November?
Oh, mate, listen, I'll move some bits and bobs around. Absolutely, I'll bite your arm off. Of course, it'd be an honour.
Oh,
to
you're a
serve
good man.
that, yeah.
You're a good man.
How good.
I'm actually here with Ben. I'll pass you on to him in a moment. But
Well, is Lenny there?
yeah, he is. But just one more question. I don't want to be cheeky while we're here, and I don't want to over ask. But the other pubs that are around Twickenham, the Super Six within a mile.
The Fuller's ones that we help with, yeah. So, the Turks, the Nelson, the Blucher, those ones, yep.
Yeah. What do you think?
Get them into there?
Is there a chance that we could get this within a mile of Twickenham, so that if people want to go and watch Coley in the
Mate, consider it done. We will put that into all those sites for you. Absolutely.
mate?
Let's own Twickenham for the Autumn Nation Series. For the love of rugby, it'll be all over the town.
Mate, done and
How
dusted.
good.
Let me pass you on to Len. I won't pass you to Dan because he's a man of few words, as you know. But I'll just pass you to Ben quickly.
Stu, champion, mate. Thank you very much. I'm all right. How are you, mate?
How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well after
now.
hearing that news. Sorry. Given the fact that we rang Bateman about this idea just to throw it out there, we didn't think it would stick, but it has. And thank you, mate, for supporting it. So that's mega.
Oh, mate. No, don't be silly. No problem at all. It'd be awesome. Well, listen, you must come down and have a pint of it in the bar.
Well, I will. I'll happily come down, Stu. I'll see you down there, mate, in November at some point. I'll pour myself a nice pint or two or three. But I look forward to it.
Down as well.
I will do. All right, mate. Thanks so much for supporting.
No worries.
Absolute champion. Cheers, Stu. Cheers, mate. Bye.
Cheers. Take care, all of you.
How
Well,
good.
that's how it's done.
How good.
So there you are. Within a mile of Twickenham, 6 outlets within a mile of Twickenham will have For the Love of Rugby, 3% pale ale.
I just feel like I don't know where we go from this.
I know. I'm just saying, just.
I'm in
proud.
awe of.
Thanks,
I'm in
Greg.
awe of.
I'm in awe of Greg Bateman. Yeah.
I cannot believe we've actually pulled it off. I can't believe you pulled it off.
Yeah.
I mean,
We. It's been a group effort, Greg.
Well done, lads. Thanks for all your help.
I can't believe you have pulled it off with our throwaway idea that I did when I rang you. Mate, well done. How good.
Really good.
People can get an opportunity now to connect. I suppose that's what the idea is, right? That's what we all want.
Yeah, 100%. And times can be tough for people, can't they? But if you're having a good time or a bit of a shit time, go and grab a mate, grab a pint, go and sit down, watch the rugby together. You might just open up a conversation that will change someone's life. So it's a really positive thing to get involved with. Thank you, lads, for the idea.
No, thank you, Greg, for making it happen.
Oh, this all feels a little bit nice now, doesn't it?
Yeah, we'll get back to it. We'll get back to it. But but generally, have a pint for the love of rugby and reconnect. And that's ultimately like the message that you want from people's captain.
100%.
Just retracking a couple of minutes there, Greg. On the phone call, got some loose ends to tie up. You said that we've been digging you out on this podcast, I think was your words.
This boxing match is happening.
As you're here now, is there anything you'd like to... Your side of the story, right? We've got a couple of stories. Yeah. First and foremost.
We've got one legendary, which
yeah. We'll leave the legendary one, but a couple of stories. One involving espressos in Treviso.
Yeah, that needs clearing up.
Right, okay, right, yeah.
Because,
would you like to put your...
Yeah, because you actually know the other half of this story, Coley, and you chose not to bring it all to light. But basically, I had a dead leg and wasn't allowed to drink. I can't remember why you weren't drinking.
I think we come back off summer tourism late, so we were training, but we weren't playing.
Ah, okay. So you weren't on the piss either. You, me, and Tatey went for ice cream because we found that place that ran the runny chocolate into the cones, and we just stayed there.
It was honestly one of the world's greatest gelato spots.
Unbelievable.
Ever.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we went there.
But this is we played a Friday night game, didn't we, against Treviso? Well, Leicester played a Friday night game against Treviso. So you didn't play, I didn't play, Ben didn't play. Some people decided to... We thought we'd be professional. As you got a dead leg, I was like, I'm just back into pre-season. We'd be professional, but there was a social organised that night, wasn't there?
Correct.
Some blokes, not naming any, who weren't playing, decided to have a couple of beers, strong Italian beer, maybe one too many, and decided to waltz into the changing room after the game. I think we'd won like 10-7 or something like that, and basically call out the forwards coach for his maul defence. At which point, the attack coach then goes, I think you are out of line. Can you leave the changing room? So that set the mood for the night. And I think after that, the boys basically, everyone, apart from a few professional blokes...
did that?
So what people don't know about Ben is he's a lovely bloke, but he has a gear, doesn't he? Yeah. Where he can be a complete helmet. And
I think he gets overexcited. It's not like a malicious... Like no. Some people I think he gets overexcited and then like gets egged on by his mates. Like, you see someone like go about it, it's like, yeah, go and say it, mate. Go and say it. Then he walks in, like, I think everyone's got his back, and it's just like...
Fucking hell, Blaze, your line-up to you shit.
No, you lads absolutely stitched me up.
But it would need to correct him, because then when we had this meeting with...
But then there was a night out, wasn't there? Which we professionals decided to go get a professional high-protein ice cream instead. Well, the rest of the squad basically went out. There was a bus journey away. It ended in a sort of... I think they stopped at McDonald's. Somebody, I think, pushed the team manager into the pool. It was like a club.
Oh, didn't he have his iPhone in his pocket?
Yeah, and so basically then couldn't ring the bus or sort out any communications. I can't remember who pushed that guy into the pool.
Didn't he have to buy him a new phone?
Do you remember who that was?
Oh, do you know what? I mean, it's coming back to me slightly, but I definitely had to buy someone a phone the next day. I'm not sure.
Not for the life of you.
I can't remember who it was, but you remember buying a phone afterwards.
Pushed that person in the pool.
So
correct.
There was that. The bus basically, I think, they stopped for food at McDonald's on the way back, and obviously 30 red players get off this bus. There was like I think McDonald's got overran. The Italian police came out, had a bit of a sort of standoff, and basically inflamed the situation. Everyone got home. But I think the press got wind of what had gone on, hadn't it? And there wasn't anyone...
The team manager couldn't sort it out because he was walking on, you know, Ace Ventura when he comes out of the water and he's like squidging in. He couldn't sort it out because he was drenched.
The team manager couldn't sort it out because his phone wasn't working. So anyway...
Due to an idiot pushing him in the pool.
Yeah, we get back. That's Friday. We get back Saturday. Everything's fine. But then it gets released that it's going to be in the press, isn't it, on like Sunday or something like that. So we all get a text message being like, Monday morning in the meeting room at 7 a.m. And at that point, you know, something's not great is going down. So we get into this meeting.
And that's why that hurts, because I was very smug going into that meeting, knowing I wasn't involved in anything, thinking I just had a gelato and it was fine. But then we had to go through, like, you know, lads putting their hands up saying, I took a cookie from the thing, or I force-fed Fraser with a milkshake, or whatever it was.
It was like, I threw cheesecake, but I cleared it up.
And it was just ridiculous. But I was, you know, just sat there thinking, well, at least I'm not going to get done for anything. And then, Bateman, 200 espressos, didn't pay your room bill. And I'm like just so confused and didn't know what had happened. And then afterwards, I'd had a chat with it was Richard Cockrell, I'm assuming people know it was him. And I was like, well, obviously I can't actually drink 200 espressos. Like, you know, it's not me, so I'm happy to pay for it, but I didn't actually do it. He's like, Doesn't look good though, does it? It's not fucking humble, is it? But I didn't know they were there, so I couldn't have paid the room bill before we left because I didn't know that the lads had put it on my room. But it just doesn't look good, does it? It's not fucking humble. That's not what we signed up for at the beginning of the season, is it? It's just... No, you're dead right. You're absolutely right.
I don't know. Everyone just sat there. Everyone who was having coffee in reception with it, just signing off on your room. It was genius.
So the correction is basically that's why that hurt so much, is because, you know, it wasn't blameless on everybody's part going into that meeting.
I just love that. How he actually had the printed off receipt as well. It's just like you wouldn't let it go. It's just like, at what stage did he sit down and go, yeah, you're right. I mean, physically, you can't have 200 espressos and still be alive. Like,
speaking of
he just refused to be wrong, though.
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely. And boys, he's not wrong, is he? And I know this hasn't come up on the pod before, but just to speak to the overexcitedness that can sweep across Ben at times. Do you remember when the former head of the SAS came to speak to us?
When was that?
He was called in when we weren't having a particularly good year. He was called in about, you know, planning, preparation. Everybody knows their jobs, and it was quite powerful. Like, you know, people that have gone to war, fought for their country, and like, we were shit, weren't we? Like, we had a really good squad, but we were awful. Someone took it upon themselves in this very powerful, straight talking meeting about being prepared to just go, so is it about, you know, being really clear on the plan? Because sometimes I walk out on that pitch and I haven't got a fucking clue what was going through my head. And this is in front of all of the coaches, the whole squad, some members of the upper tier as well, and it just landed like an absolute lead balloon, didn't it?
Well, it did, but I was always prepared to put my head above the parapet for the benefit of the team and benefit of winning. And the fact that we didn't have a clue what we were doing, I was the one prepared to go. Just on that, it sounds like you're very well prepared and clarity when you take on a mission and are able to adapt. And what would you say to a team maybe that takes the field and doesn't have a plan or clarity in terms of what they're trying to do or trying to be? But once again, Greg, a bit like the other thing, teammates were right behind me on that day, weren't they?
Let's all stick together. I remember that one.
Yeah, go on, Lenny. You sat right behind you, mate. I'll back you up after. Right. Yeah, question. Anyone else on that? No, just Lenny. Just Lenny thinks that. Oh, right, lads. Am I the only one, that thinks that? Okay.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what we're doing, yeah.
It was also, do you remember the guy from one of the banks came in and basically talked about how he set up a bank? But he's like,
that was one of my favourites.
But there's like 5 different types of like organisation, and there's like the pyramid thing, there's the Galactico thing, and there's the spider's web scheme.
Yeah.
And he's like, so what happens if the spider like leaves, and what happens to the spider's web? He's like, it stays the same. No, it doesn't. It disappears. It's just like,
which is wrong. He's actually wrong. That's bullshit from him, because he's been going around for years, right, doing these corporate chats for probably 10, 20 grand.
You get a
and
free
that's
pen
rubbish.
If
a spider does a web and the spider leaves, the web just stays there. So I'm not wrong. Like, he didn't put a timescale on it.
No one's disagreeing with you that you're wrong.
Yeah, well, I'm calling out that helmet.
It was the confidence that you answered this question that he just like literally just glossed over you. Like, yeah, that's right. It disappears.
Well, it was cockers at the front when he put up a news article, and he's like, "When do you reckon this came out?" And Cockers is like,
Daily Mail last week.
Daily Mail last week. He's like, no. It was like the Times, 1930.
That was the genius behind that meeting was Semper Idem, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
So that was when we the club decided that the value for the year, or our edict.
Well, the badge of Leicester City, or the city's motto is Semper Idem, which is Latin for always the same. So we decided that, you know, Leicester, a successful team, always the same. We're always the same, and all this kind of stuff.
That's it.
So, and then this bloke came in and basically
Kodak dead.
If I may,
didn't adapt. Nokia dead. Didn't adapt. Another company like Wigglesworth didn't adapt, did they? So they literally went for all these companies that had basically not changed and had gone to the wayside and disappeared.
What's the Leicester motto?
It's like, Leicester, you must have a motto. What's the Leicester motto? It's like, Semper Idem.
Always the same.
What does that mean? Sorry, what was that?
His whole presentation was basically about companies not evolving, not being pioneering, like all this stuff, and how they'd all ended up basically in the well at the end.
Like the spider's web.
So
always
what's the So what's the Leicester motto? Tipperary.
Gloss over
Sorry,
that,
I didn't quite catch that, mate. Can you say that again?
That's a personal favourite, that one.
That is a personal favourite. But Greg, you've always also been exploring about opportunities outside of rugby for as long as you played. You're always up to bits and doing bits, right? And obviously it landed, people's captain, fantastic, going great guns, right? But leading up till you got to that stage, right, I do recall you popping down to London and a very amusing situation happening as we all look to transition out of rugby and we meet across these people and potential opportunities and interests. But that one's a bit of a cracker, that one, if you wouldn't mind sharing that.
This is Jerry.
I would rather you tell it than me tell it and then you get arsey because I've outed you.
Arsey. So you're right. I think I did put a lot of effort in while I was playing into, what was going to be next. Not all of us have reached the dizzying heights of you boys, and I did need to think about what my job was going to be. Also, it was the week after the piece of shit drill in the forwards, if you remember, when Cockers told me to go home because I was a piece of shit.
Go on, tell me that one.
It was just like some passing drill, and I think I was injured for 6 weeks, so I just didn't do the drill. And then I fucked up, and then he'd called me out, and then the lads realised that Cockers was going for me, so then they started firing balls at me. So the one went straight over into like Obi Wig's car park. And then he was like, "You might as well fuck off, go in the changing room, piece of shit, don't bother coming back." And I wish, actually, that's one of my regrets. I wish I'd gone home. I really wish I'd gone home. And then, anyway, so I was like doing a bit of, what we call networking.
So when he said just like go home, what did you do? Just stick with it whilst the lads missile these balls that you see?
No. He sent me into the changing room.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I had to go in, and I was just sort of sat in the changing room, and then he came back afterwards and was like, I might have been a bit over the top, but, switch on for this afternoon, yeah? I was like, okay. It's just bizarre.
So good.
But I should have gone home. Anyway, so I suppose that gives you the picture as to why I was thinking, perhaps I'm not going to do this forever. I was sort of offered this job for a private bank to do some relationship management stuff, which is the ideal job, right? You go and schmooze people, take them out, give them a good time, let the really clever people do that stuff, build relationships and do good stuff. So anyway, I went to go and meet these guys, so I thought, better dress up, put a nice linen white shirt on, chinos, got the boat shoes out of the cupboard, was ready to go, and went into the office, up this lift into the main hall, and I sort of met this incredibly posh bloke talking about his days of playing rugger, and then he was like going through, I played against RGS Pi Wickham or whatever it was, and who was that player? Yes, Dawson, that was it. And, I remember when I was a flanker, and do you mind? And then he got down on his knees on the floor and would like bind up in between my legs to be like, and I just make sure I was holding on for, bind in, get your head in. I was thinking, this guy am I being filmed? Someone's having me on it. But you just entertain it, don't you? And just go, yeah.
And this is outside a lift, right? In the main, like...
No. So this is in the meeting room.
Oh, this is in the meeting room?
Yeah, it's just chatting away. And I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in getting into private banking as it happens. And it's just like, okay. Anyway, we're waiting for Jerry to arrive, who's runs our fund in Paris. Anyway, let's go and see if he's here. So we sort of head out to, the atrium or whatever it is where the lift is to come and say, Jerry's here. Jerry comes out the lift and he's like, I've been telling this rugger bugger all about my playing days and this stuff. And I was thinking, fuck it, this is bizarre. We haven't got to any kind of questions about what he thinks I can deliver or anything. And then he starts kind of wrestling me, where he sort of like grabs my shirt and is just sort of pulling and tugging me. And then I'm sort of thinking, I'm a professional rugby player. I'm getting mugged off here by this by this bloke. So I think I better start actually wrestling him back a little bit. And it's one of those really hot days in London where, it's just a sauna. So my shirt is see-through and I'm sweating buckets in this lift, wrestling this old bloke, just enough so that he doesn't think he's had the upper hand on me. And then we sort of get downstairs and Jerry's like, sorry guys, I've got to head off. I've got to go meet someone. And then just come away from it like, so do you want to catch up about this stuff? It's like, yeah, definitely. come back next week. And you're just like, what the fuck has gone on? Well, I was come back and told you about it the next day. Just like, I'm not sure that's for me, actually, lads. It's a bit of a weird environment. So then that's how the Jerry started.
But you have another meeting after, so you had to go buy a new shirt.
I had to go and get like TM Lewin, or like on the corner on the way, just like, I need a shirt immediately to go and see whoever I was going to go and see next, because it was genuinely see-through. It's horrendous.
Have you had any wrestles whilst brewing?
No brewing wrestles. Very conscious on health and safety. No.
Okay.
No.
Oh, you should bring it in, mate. Should be a work time.
Crying with laughter.
Oh, I am, yeah. Just the thought of having a bundle in the lift. But, yeah, no, I am, yeah.
You
filled
deck
in. The tent. Come here, you rugger bugger.
Deck the tent.
How long did the wrestle go on for?
Well, as long as a lift takes to go, 3 or 4 stories down, and then too long after the doors opened for it to feel like a sort of casual wrestle as casual as a wrestle with a, older than middle-aged bloke in a lift gets.
That you've never met before.
Yeah. Bizarre.
Oh.
I've heard that like 20 times and I love it every time.
You're actually an internet sensation.
Wait.
Well,
Wait, before we go on to the Christmas tree, there is one more. When you went all the way to get a free pair of shoes and writ off your car.
Oh, that was tough.
It probably wasn't worth it, was it?
No, that was bad.
You forgot about that, didn't you? You forgot about that.
yeah.
I actually haven't. I purposefully didn't mention that because that is tough. So that was my first. We all remember our first nice car, don't we?
Yeah.
And I got a nice deal on a Mercedes C250. And I thought, I've made it. Anyway, there's this company, local Leicester company, that bought out these brogues, and I wanted a pair of these brogues. I don't have a reason to wear them. Maybe it's because the boat
London
shoes.
meetings.
Exactly. And I was like, got in touch with the bloke, and I was like, I could probably bring a couple of the lads down to the event. Willie Thorne was there, rest in peace.
Yeah.
And who's the Leicester football? Steve
Claridge.
Yeah, thank you. They were there doing a Q&A, but it was like a posh wine and dine night, and whatever. And I was like, look, if I bring a couple of lads down, maybe we could get a couple of pairs of shoes. We'll do a bit of pass it to the England lads, and because I was quite good at I'll get some stuff for the lads, and then we'll post about it, all the rest of it. Anyway, went to this night, and it was out in the middle of, because you know what Leicestershire's like. It's like there's Leicester
and there's
the Shires,
rural Leicester, yeah.
Miles away, spread out, lots of water everywhere. It'd been heavy rain. We're on our way there, and we had to go round. It took us ages to get there because there'd been floods. So we turn up, do this night, and it was in this pub that was very warm. And I was sat next to Lockie and Toulouse with the lads that I'd managed to convince to take with me, the ones who didn't have families and children at the time. So we sat there, and this old dear drops into her food and we thought she's dead. But so we were like, well, we better step up and do something here. So we were trying to carry her out of the. I'm laughing because she wasn't dead in the end. I'm sorry to ruin the story, but that's why I'm laughing. So we tried to carry her out, and I was like, right, I'm under her arms. You got her feet? Yeah, okay. 3, 2, 1. Dropped her. She splat on the floor. So then we sort of drag her really badly. Oh, this is actually quite terrible. Out into the front of this pub, where then the paramedics had turned up, and it's like, she's just got too hot. She's cooled down now. She's going to be okay. But that's the end of the evening. So off you go. But the ambulance that had turned up had blocked the way that we came in. So I was like, Mercedes, the sat nav's going to be bob on, right? So I'll just pop in the home address, no problem. So I head down, and then obviously there's a bit of flooding across the road, and I was like, sure, it'll be fine. C250, it's going to be fine. But the mistake I made was Lockie was very adamant in the back, don't do it. Toulouse was encouraging me to do it, and I reversed back about 40 yards and floored it, which if you know anything about driving through water, you're supposed to go at a steady speed to not create a bow wave. I hit this thing at must have been 80 miles an hour. And we got halfway through, and it wasn't just a little bit of flooding. We got into the water, and the car died, and there's water coming up through the bottom of the car. And I was trying to open my door, but I couldn't open the door. It was pitch black, so we didn't know how deep the water was. And I just kept on trying to start the car. So I'm trying to Google, how do you start a car that's been flooded? Never try and start a car that's been flooded. Fucking hell, right. So we've got to get out and push it. So climb out the window. The water's up here. And then trying to convince Lockie to get out the back. He's like, no, I said don't do it. Fuck you, I'm not getting out. How deep is it? Oh, it's not that bad, mate. It's not that bad. He jumps out. Oh, you pricks. So then we're all out in this, like, effectively a river in the middle of the night, in the freezing cold, pushing the car out. And then we get to the other side, call the emergency, like, recovery to come and get us. He didn't have a thing that was long enough to get across the river, tied it to a telegraph pole. The telegraph pole snaps. So then he drives around the other side to come get the car, hooks it on, gets us home. But he can't take us home. A taxi's got to come. So we're all stood in the middle of, like, a field waiting for a taxi to turn up. And obviously they're on an insurance job, so they just go all the way, Northampton to Cambridge to wherever, and, got dropped off last because it was entirely my fault. Got home about 2-3 o'clock in the morning. We had training at 7:30. So the car was dead, and that was gone. And I never ever got a pair of those shoes.
That's the best thing. You never even got the pair of shoes.
Yeah.
This is an advert. Want to watch England? Well, it's not always easy for everyone to get to London.
So here's an idea. How about go watch England A or England under-20s, who are world champions, by the way.
Good to see England A back.
Brilliant seeing England A back. Plenty of young talent getting opportunities, fringe players knocking at the door. What could be better?
Well, England A have 2 games coming up. The first one is on November the 17th against Australia A at the Stoop.
But that is in London.
But then, in February, they play Ireland A at Ashton Gate in Bristol.
Ticket prices start at £25 for Australia A game and £20 for Ireland A game in Bristol.
And what about the under-20s?
Well, they're defending Six Nations champions, and many of the squad that played last season are playing again.
And they have 3 home games this year.
They do. They have France and Italy at the Rec.
And then they play Scotland in Newcastle.
You can buy tickets at englandrugby.com/tickets. It's at least worth a look.
You can get bundle tickets in Bath, and there are £10 tickets available in Newcastle for adults and £5 for kids.
So there are England sides all over the country in the next few months.
Tickets are much more affordable than Twickenham, and some of the games might be on your doorstep.
Go to englandrugby.com/tickets.
And consider going to watch the under-20s or England A.
We can't ignore the Christmas tree. So we've got to hear your side of the story.
Because you're an internet sensation. Lenny says you got million-odd views of the Christmas tree story.
If you add up the 2 videos, you've had over 2 million views on Instagram.
So if there's anything you'd like to say about this Christmas tree story you'd like to get off your chest, then...
It hurt. It really hurt. 40 annoys me more about it because he was so secretive. And then even after your nephew revealed it was you, he was like, it wasn't me, mate. I wasn't involved in it at all. It wasn't me. And then he was obviously involved. Just own up that you were involved. I think, so there's not really another side to the story. I think I'm a bit embarrassed that I went so hard on the local Facebook group. That was pretty...
Do you remember being the change what you wrote or not?
I can probably find it, but it was pretty tough. I went in pretty hard. So that was quite embarrassing. But it was unbelievable from you lads. And we was before a game.
Yeah.
The coaches were asking me about it, and they were all pissing themselves. And I was like raging because I was convinced it was like someone was out to get me, or like it just somehow got into my subconscious. Who could it be? What have I done? Like,
well, say the lads are literally, because everyone not everyone knew, but it was kind of out there, and it was
enough knew.
But, like, everyone knew to just prod you to be like, "Oh, tell us the story." Oh, what's happened? What's happened? It's like, "Oh, just pretend to listen in." Like, so what's happened, Greg? Like this, and what about those kids that were really like they drove quite quickly past the other day? What about them? Must be them. Like, just dropping suggestions and just fuming you.
Oh, it really got into the subconscious and but since your video, there's been quite a number of people, smart asses, frankly. Oh, I've heard you got somewhere good for me to dump my Christmas tree this year. That hurts my feelings a little bit, if I'm honest. But fair play, like the Otley social, where the Mormon social, you kept that a secret as well. Very good. That's
you are the brunt of it, and I love it. I love doing it to you.
You need a common enemy, and I'm happy to play that role.
Yeah, and to be fair, it was actually the team run day. you came in the Friday morning and like we're all trying to keep a straight face and like not snigger, and you've literally come in, I'm like, all right, Bateman, I'll trip over your bottom lip in a minute. What's going on? You're like, you wouldn't believe it. There's another 7 trees over this morning. I looked at the dog out, there's another 7 trees sitting there.
These dogs go mental every evening. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, what's going on now? So you never believe I'm like there. I'm going to start joining Neighbourhood Watch. Not long. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that was good. There's not really another side to that. I have to take my hat off. That was a very well delivered practical joke.
How did you actually get rid of the trees eventually?
Yeah, no, I left them in the middle of the sort of green area outside the front.
Fair enough.
And a very, very snooty message on the local Facebook community. Which I do apologise to members of Kidworth Meadows. It wasn't your fault.
It was a great practical joke, Greg. So thank you for giving me the plaudits on that one.
You're welcome. Oh, and no, on that, Sia Khaleesi has actually been in touch about getting revenge on you.
You've basically blown your cover straight away, because now I can just DM and go, what you got planned? Because whatever you got planned, we up it and we just get Bateman back, so he'll double cross you.
Didn't think about that.
Unlucky. Mate, we could generally talk for ages, because there's about at least another 20 stories that we've not ever unveiled. But
they
we
just
can
keep
have you
flooding back as well, don't they?
Yeah,
Like,
you've
talking
been
about
in
them.
tears during this, because you've forgotten about half of them.
Yeah. They're in the locker. They're in the safe.
There's a that I can. One of the sponsors even is one of the like, we didn't bring that up, but like that has me in tears thinking about that one, because I can still picture you now.
And also being on stage with the. Didn't you have to do a sports award with
the under-19s basketball squad at Leicester? Came
just save it. Just save him. Just save him.
Came up to their belly buttons. Congratulations, guys.
you this season. Oh, I love it. You get yourself in a pickle, but you haven't got yourself in a pickle with delivering with the beer, mate. Thank you. For love of rugby, you can find it. You can get in touch with yourself if you're interested. But if you're in and around,
you get in touch with yourself. Brilliant.
Get in touch with Greg. You can get in touch with Greg, of course, if you're interested. But if you're in and around Twickenham, get amongst it. And big shout out to Stuart from the Cabbage Patch for stocking it.
Thank you very much for having me, lads. And it's really good to see you both doing so well with this. Pleased for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Sort of.